Season finale, man. So, every season finale, I am going to give y'all a piece of me. Something that's dear to my heart. And for now, and soon to come, it will be homeless in Atlanta. So, with that being said, let's start. Let's see if we can do a little 30-second synopsis of, right before Atlanta. Graduated from Mississippi State. Took me 8 years to do so, 6 school years, but 2 other years was due to dropping out of school, but technically it was a little break. Graduated, like I said, 8 years after I first got into college, and finally decided to move to Atlanta after wanting to do so for years. Purpose of wanting to move to Atlanta is to perform. Bam, there we go. Got y'all upgraded, caught up, all that good stuff. So I ended up moving to Atlanta, uh, fixing myself. I can't even see the fucking camera. Um, I ended up moving to Atlanta about a semester later. So technically, I wasn't in school. I was working for like 4 to 5, 6, 7 months after I graduated. So I moved to Atlanta in July 2018. Before I moved to Atlanta, now the story begins. Let's slow down. So before I moved to Atlanta, July 2018. I lied. It's June 2018. I'll actually never forget that as I'm forgetting it. June 2018. I was going through some things that we'll talk about later. And June 2018 was when I actually left Mississippi. We'll start there. That's when I left Mississippi. Um, there was a guy named Vic. I'm only gonna say his name because I really don't give two shits about this nigga. Now, before we keep going saying Vic, it's not the same Vic that y'all may know from my vlogs. It's not the same Vic that's my homie. So we're not even gonna go there. All right, so it's not that Vic. Even he might think I'm talking about him until I'll be like, yo, dog, it's a completely different dude. So it's a dude named Vic that actually stayed at my apartment once upon a time while I was in school. So this is a few years prior to me moving to Atlanta. Prior means before for the people who don't know. And he stayed in our living room. And it's cool because we had a few people staying in our living room. You know, when folks leave your college or graduate or wherever the case is, they like to come back. And if they don't have a place to stay and you don't want them to pay for a hotel, you'd be like, yo, you stay at our spot. It's cool. I had 3 roommates. It was all dope. All of us were cool. And it was one of the roommates, homie. And don't know if I want to say my roommate's name. It's not implicating him. I just don't know if I want to do that. But they're the ones that knew each other. I didn't know this nigga like that. But you give your friends a benefit of a doubt. If they say they're cool, then be like, all right, bet. So Vic stayed in our living room. And there are some women that stayed in our living room too that were friends. I had a shawty at the time, I believe. Maybe. I can't remember. Oh, I actually did. So yeah, the one that got away. We'll get to that story one day. And it was a great weekend for me, friends going out, having fun, this, that, and the other. But there's something I noticed about Vic that I'll never forget. He had this look in his eyes. I'm going to pause the story. Somebody told me one time that they said, Dee Brown. I said, what? They said, I think you can like read people. Me, I don't really believe in that shit. Like, I know there's people out there that can read people, but in today's society, there's people who pride themselves so much on reading people that it's like bullshit. That they just kind of say it. You know, like women say intuition, but they're not really, they're just using it for conversation or like gloating about the fact that they're sneaky and look through people's phones. Well, this one person was like, yo, I think you can read people. And I was like, yeah, that's some bullshit. I'm not listening to that. But over time, I'm starting to think they might be right. It's not that I'm trying to read people. Maybe I kind of am, but I just I'm trying to be weary of the people that I'm around. But at the time, he just had this look about himself, and he was, you know how people do the light skin pose and they squint their eyes. He was like that a lot, and maybe that's just natural for him. But it was like he squint his eyes, and he had like this sneaky ass fucking look, and I'm like, yo, maybe I'm tripping, bro. I told my roommate, I said, hey, bro, he seemed kind of shiesty. This is way before Pooh Shiesty blew up. The term shiesty in the South means sneaky, means a motherfucker you can't trust, mean they might rob you. Shiesty is a Southern term. So for the people who don't know what Pooh Shiesty means, when this nigga talking about robbing and shit, this nigga is not playing no fucking games. Pooh Shiesty, there's a reason this nigga's finna go to jail right now. Like, this nigga really lives that fucking life. So if you ever hear the term shiesty, stop asking for an autograph and a picture. That motherfucker will rob you, or whatever the case is. So sorry for fixing my shit. I'm not used to having this little string out. So yeah, he had this look about himself, and I told my roommate, I said, man, just something about him, and he said, nah, bro, he's cool, man, he's cool. So I was like, all right. And the reason I said that too, because like, he just, you know, some guys are weird around women, man. Some guys are weird around you, but they're also weirder around women. And I like people who like act cool around women. You can act whatever around the homies. Shit, I act wild around the homies. I don't do anything wild. I just talk recklessly. But it was just something about him. So we enjoyed the weekend. Everything was cool. He didn't do nothing fucked up. So right before he ended up leaving after the weekend was over, he said, hey, if y'all ever move to Atlanta, and he was specifically talking to me more so, saying, yo, if you ever move to Atlanta, you can stay at my crib before you find a place to stay. And I was like, bet, appreciate that. The type of person I am, I never ask people for favors. I just don't like it. I also don't want to feel like I owe people shit. It's an internal thing. I usually don't tell people, yo, I don't want to use you. And then somebody might feel obligated to say, you're not going to, no matter how they really feel. So I usually keep it to myself and say, I'm probably not hitting this nigga up because I just don't want to feel like a burden. That's just how I live. So now we're going to fast forward 2 years after. And at the point that I graduate, several months after that, June 2018. It's time for me to go. Some drastic shit happened that we'll talk about another time. And it was time for me to go. My lease was running out. I wasn't going to pay my last month of rent in Mississippi. So I was like, yep, I'm out. I took out $1,400 in my bank account. I only had $400 in my bank, I believe. Actually, yeah, I took out somewhere between $1,200 and $1,400. So I believe it was $1,200. I believe that's the max they let me take out. So I took out like $400 the first day. I took out like another $400 the next day, and like another $400 the day after that. Then when I tried to take out another $400, the ATM was like, "Nigga, you broke." So I ended up having like $1,200 on me in cash, and I said, "I'll have this for Atlanta. It's my survival money." So I just up and left Mississippi, like just hopped in the whip and went. I had already took some trips to Atlanta, but 2 of those trips went bad. So, you know, I ran out of time at this point. I go to Atlanta, and keep in mind, I don't have a place to stay. And if I'm gonna be honest with you, that really doesn't bother me because I'm the type of person who I don't care what type of decisions you make, as long as you understand the consequences. No matter who that is, no matter if that's Antonio Brown, what he's going through, or a woman who's doing some hoe shit, as long as you understand the consequences, Dee Brown don't give a fuck. Now, if you don't understand the consequences and you're bitching after that, then that's where I have an issue. But I understood the consequences. I have $1,200. I don't have a place to stay. However, I did end up setting up a place for me to stay called Westmar Lofts in Atlanta while I was in Atlanta. So when I made it to Atlanta, I stayed in like parking lots and I would sleep in my truck. And I was there maybe a few days, maybe a week, something like that. And online, I saw there was a lady that was trying to, that had, I saw a lady that was around her 50s or 60s, and she was letting people know that you can rent out one of her rooms in like a 4 or 5 bedroom house, really nice house, for $800. It was like I forgot the deposit, and then the rent was something else, and it totaled out to be $800. So I contacted her, and keep in mind, like I said, I have Westmar Lofts, which is a student living. It's like apartment slash dorms. To me, it's a dorm. To me, it's really a dorm. It's a big ass dorm with a parking deck. And I had roommates. But you have to be a student. I wasn't a fucking student. I didn't go to Clark Atlanta, Morehouse. It's like 4 Spelman. I didn't go to, it was like 4 or 5 different colleges you had to go to be here. But their checks sucked. And I just acted like I was a student, and I didn't talk to any administration there or people in head of the office. All they said was, "We don't remember you," but that's fast forwarding. So I did go ahead and apply for them. I didn't meet with anybody, and they accepted me. But that starts mid-August. That lease starts mid-August. I was in Atlanta in June, so I needed a place to stay from June to August. So this lady, her name was Honey, the 50-something or 60-something-year-old lady. She's like an older mother. She might have been a grandmother, but she didn't move around like she was a grandmother. But she could have been one. Who knows? So when I saw her on Facebook, I contacted her, and I met up with her at her house. And we ended up agreeing. And before I agreed, she said, I stay here. My assistant stays here, which is a woman. Myra, fine ass woman. I ain't gonna lie, she was like 25 at the time. And I can't remember, somewhere near 25. Thick ass girl with red hair. And Honey, the older lady, she said, "Yeah, you're a guy, so I'm gonna have to be careful about this because I was really just looking for girls." And so she ended up accepting me. We signed a lease, and I moved my stuff into the room. I guess I'll tell this whole story like this. I kind of wanted to save the Honey story, but I guess I'll get into that. I moved my stuff into the room, and I told her I was a cameraman and stuff like that. She had some music aspirations. Back in the past, she used to date somebody who was a big deal from what she says, but who knows? Atlanta is Atlanta, and people be lying. But long story short, I ended up staying there for like 4 days, literally. And she came in my room one time, and I was working at Chipotle at the time. So I was going to Chipotle back and forth during these 4 days, trying to figure out Atlanta, this, that, and the other. It was a really nice house, really nice neighborhood I was staying in. So Chipotle, back to the house. Chipotle, back to the house. Open mic, back to the house. So stuff like that. And it was odd because the home didn't have any food, didn't have much furniture. So it was kind of weird. They barely ate anything, so I was eating a lot of fast food, so I was spending money like hell. Like I said, stayed in the house for 4 days, and she came in my room one time and said, "Hey, I didn't realize it, but last night somebody Airbnb'd this place." And my assistant must have accepted it. I didn't know, so now we got to get out. It's like a production team filming a movie or a show, something like that. So we got to get out for like the weekend, but I'll book you a hotel, and then we can come back Monday. This was like a fucking Friday or a Saturday. I know a lady that stays at I know a lady that works at the Marriott. Her name is blank, maybe Jennifer or something. And I looked at her and I said, "If you're lying to me, you're not going to like it." And she looked at me with the crazy face like, "Wait, what'd you say to me?" I said, "If you're lying to me, I'm going to fuck you up." I literally said that to her face in the room because now, it's Atlanta. So she said, okay. And I just gathered all my stuff. And she said, "Oh, you ain't got to pack everything." I said, "No, I'm taking everything." So I took everything except like 3 or 4 articles of clothing because it just couldn't fit with me. I spent that morning just cleaning all that out, put it in my truck. And I ended up going to Vic's house. And I'm like, Vic, what's up, bro? Need a place to stay. What I didn't tell you about this story was I actually stayed at Vic's place first before I went to Honey's house. So I actually left Atlanta, went to Vic's spot for maybe a day or two or three. I paid for some fast food for him and stuff like that because it might have been an inconvenience. It was a gated community. He kind of had to pull some strings sometimes to let me in the house. So, as an inconvenience, I'll pay for food for him. So then I ended up staying with Honey. That's the part I left out. So technically, I'm moving back with Vic, sleeping on his couch. And so this is the second time I'm with Vic. I'm like, hey man, explain the situation to him. Told him I should be back over there after the weekend. So I'm waiting at his crib and he's at work. I'm not actually in his crib yet. He just opened the gate for me from where he worked at. And it's hot as fuck. It's Georgia, bro. It's like 100 degrees outside. So I'm just like chilling. Hot as fuck, but it's cool. And I decided to call the Marriott and the location that she was saying because I wasn't hearing back from Honey. It had been some hours. It had been some hours and some hours and some hours, but I hadn't heard back from her. It might have been half a day that went by. Maybe not, maybe 4 or 5 hours, something like that. And when I called, the lady at the Marriott said, who you looking for? And I said, Jennifer. And she said, she don't work till overnight. So I wasn't hearing back from Honey even after texting her and calling her and stuff like that. She might have hit me back once and said she's going to the airport to drop her sister off. And I wasn't hearing back from her. So I started to feel like I was getting played. But I try to have faith in people sometimes. Vic ends up making it back to his crib. And I'm sleeping on his couch. Well, I'm back on his couch. And a few hours goes by. Now it's nighttime. I can't remember if the next day went by or not. So just for Honey's sake, I will act like it didn't. But all day has gone by and I don't have a room at a hotel or anything. And I'm calling Honey. I'm calling her and I'm calling her. Because at this point, what I haven't told you is she still has my money. She still has my $800. And like I said, I've been spending money on fast food. So basically, long story short, with the money part is that $800 was all I had. And I've been working at Chipotle maybe 2 weeks, but I had been working at Chipotle maybe for around 2 weeks right now. I lied to Chipotle like I had been working in food for so long, but I hadn't worked in the food industry in like 5-6 years before this time. Maybe 4 or 5 years. So my body was aching every day. And the way I set it up for Chipotle was I was the highest person getting paid. We'll talk about that another time. But I was hurting. I couldn't chopping up stuff and cleaning stuff and picking up stuff after you worked in a call center for so many years. It's hard to get back into it, especially standing up for 8-9 hours a day, every single day. It's just rough. So like I said, that night comes. I'm at Vic's house. And I'm getting fed up at this point because I don't have my money. I'm dead ass broke right now. Like dead ass broke. I say, Vic. He says, what? I said, I think this woman just played me. And I was down, man. I was just down. I started to get silent. When I get silent, that's when it's not good. When I start not talking. Because knowing me, when I get silent, soon things get bad. But silent me has depressed me. Vic went back in his room, got on the phone or whatever, or, was talking to people, playing a game. Came back a few minutes later and said, hey, bro, you got to get your money back, bro. He said, you got to get your money back. And so when he said that, it was like a push for me. So I'm blowing her phone up now. I'm blowing her shit up. Still not picking up the phone. Text me back maybe 30 minutes after I called my last call. Hey, I'm still dropping my sister off at the airport. So she's been dropping her sister off at the airport for about somewhere between 6 to 9 hours now. Whole day done went by technically, well, half a day. So I know she's lying. And I'm blowing her phone up still. She's not picking up. I text her and I say, When I texted her, I said, if you don't give me back my fucking money, I'm going to your house that we stayed at. I'm breaking every fucking window. And if your son is there, I'm beating the shit out of him too. Do I feel proud about that? No. But here's the thing. The house that we stayed in, like I said, there was no food there. Barely any furniture. I came to the conclusion that that's not her house. I also came to the conclusion that she's a realtor because her Facebook page did say realtor. So I'm thinking what she did was, she's a lady in Atlanta who needs money. She's a realtor. So she acted like she was living in that home while trying to sell it. Couldn't sell it at the time. So she needed somebody to stay in the house. Act like she was going to rent it out to them. Take their money. Kick them out. And maybe she was kicking me out because she sold the house. I'm not sure. Maybe she was just scamming me. But regardless of the situation, you're scamming me. That's the conclusion I came to. So I sent that text message. Yo, I'm breaking every fucking window. And if your son's there, I'm beating the shit out of him. Her son is autistic. I feel bad about that. But he was going to have to catch that L. His son was like maybe somewhere between 8 and 10 years old. Sweet guy. But I'm sorry. I was going to beat the fuck out of him. And I was going to break that house. I was going to fuck that house up. I made it up in my mind that it's time to go to jail. It's time to go to jail. Y'all, I've never been arrested before. I've been close a few times. I've never been arrested. Never went to jail. Had a few run-ins with the police, but nothing that like resulted in anything crazy. I'm not a gang member, even though my cousins are. I'm a good guy, but I have a fucking attitude. When I sent that text message, she calls me immediately. What the fuck this? What the hell you trying to say to me? This, that. She trying to act buck. And I told her, you got 30 minutes. And I said, if I don't get my money back in 30 minutes, I'm over there. I want to let y'all know something. This house was a beautiful house. If I break one window, the police are coming in 15 seconds. That's how serious this neighborhood is. It was a white neighborhood. And Honey's black. Ain't no telling what would have happened to me. Well, I would have got arrested. But Honey, if a house like that got fucked up and she's a realtor, I know she don't want to come off more money, but who knows what a realtor will have to go through if the house they're trying to sell gets fucked up. And if they find out the situation, because if I get arrested, I'm tell the police, yo, she rented out me the spot. So, I said, you got 30 minutes. Hung up in her face while she was cussing and shit. I waited about 20 minutes. After about 25 minutes, she called me and she said, okay. I'll give you your money back. Just give me 10 minutes and I'll be over there. I said, you got 5. She asked me where I was. I sent her my address, but not the direct one. I sent her an address that was like 5 minutes walking time away from the house. Because it's not my house, not Vic's crib. It's Vic's crib, it's not my house. So I'm not trying to just, get set up. Because who knows? She's still in Atlanta. Who fuck knows what she's up to? Plus, her brother was there. Her brother was there when I was leaving. Her brother's just a fat ass dude. But her brother is somebody who works with people in music. So I assumed that I might need to talk to him later. But after this type of situation, I doubt it. But her brother don't fuck with him. Like he's one of the people that when he saw that look in my face when I left and during that situation, he ain't say nothing crazy to me. He's a lot bigger than me. Just a fat ass though. Seemed like a cool dude though. Worked with some known people. She actually comes in 5 to 7 minutes. She actually comes with her brother. Has all of my money in 20s. I counted right in front of her face. Even has the clothes I left in like this little baggy thing, folded up and everything. I thought that was nuts. I thought that was really nuts. I was like, wow, I really got my shit back. Now in my mind, all I'm worried about is this money counterfeit? Turns out it was real. I go back in the crib. I don't even say thank you. I get past the gate. I go. Oh, she said she did say sorry too. Like she felt really bad because I guess she knew what she did. So I go back past the gate. I go back in Vic's crib, and Vic's happy for me. And I tell Vic, I said, "Hey man, I ain't even gonna lie to you, bruh. I got a place to stay in August. I'm gonna keep trying to find a place to stay in the summertime, but I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. The chances of me finding a place to stay between now and August are slim to none. I might need to be here for 2 months." He said, "Okay." I said, "Do you need me to help you pay for rent? Because I do have a check coming from Chipotle in about a week." When you work somewhere and you arrive there on check week, you don't get paid till 3 weeks later. So I ended up getting hired on check week. So I don't get a check till 3 weeks later. He's like, "Nah, man, you ain't got to pay rent." The place was like $1,400 a month. In Mississippi, that's nuts. So Georgia, that's normal. So I was like, "You sure?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right." So what I did was I was paying for. I decided to pay for. Like I said before, I was buying him fast food. But what I did was this time I used my money. I spent close to $300 the next day in raw food, like raw chicken, raw fish, all that good stuff. Everything that I bought was freezer material. Only thing that I bought that wasn't freezer material was bread. I filled up his freezer. He didn't have no food in his house. I filled up his freezer. That was around 10, maybe 11 a.m. Remember, he said, "I'm cool. I can stay there till August." So I was like, well, time to get some money and hustle, this, that, and the other, on my off day for Chipotle. So I'm a cameraman. So I ended up going to Lenox Mall. And I tell myself, it's time to make some money. So I go to Lenox Mall. And literally as I make it inside, I get a text from Vic. And Vic says, "Yo, bruh. My parents called me and said that their pipe busted in their house and their house is leaking and flooding and they need to stay at my spot for some time." I looked at that text message and I said, "Damn, he's lying." So I looked up at the sky and I was like, fuck. Well, the ceiling. There's a white lady that passed me and stopped as I'm sitting down looking like depressed and shit. She says, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm okay." She said, "Do you need prayer?" And I thought about it. I don't indulge in people like bothering me. I usually tell, "Nah, I'm good. No, thank you." Stuff like that. But I told her, I was like, "Yeah, actually, I do." She said, "What's wrong?" and sat next to me. I said, "I just found out I'm homeless." I got that text message and that white lady just comes up to me 10 seconds later. I am not kidding you. At the most 15 seconds later after I read that text. She prayed with me and I just got emotional. I didn't cry. I didn't break down. I was close to it. But when she prayed with me, I looked down at my camera and I said, "You know what, my nigga? It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right." That was a sign. So I got up and left the mall. I text Vic back. I said, "Okay, I'll pack my stuff." I go to his spot. And throughout all this stuff and driving and everything, I got an old truck, man. It eats up gas like a bitch. Right around Atlanta, shit, I was paying $40 every fucking day. That's when I learned how bad gas was in Atlanta if you don't have a fuel efficient car. I make it to his crib and I knock on the door. He opens the door and he has this computer stand thing with his computer literally right next to it, face the door. And fakes like he's on the phone. He says, "Yeah, okay, Pops. All right, Moms. Shit. Oh, fuck. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to cuss. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cuss." He faked that whole shit. And then he said, all right, I'll talk to you later. This is as soon as I walk in. So that whole part I told you that he acted like he said to his parents was from when I walked in the door to 10 seconds later. Count to 10. He hung up the phone with them. So I just was like, in my head, I was like, wow. I packed my stuff up. He was like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. I took the bread. And I was mad because I was like, you waited until I paid for all of that raw food out of cash, knowing all I had was $800 on me. So now all I got is $500 on me. Really for something because I'm about to spend money on gas. And I'm about to be on the street. And not only do I not trust people, I don't even take offers like this from people because of situations like this. Obviously, I'm a burden. But now I spent all this money on food for you. And you lied. I'd rather get kicked out, y'all. I'd much rather someone says, yo, you spending up my time. You're in my way. Go, leave. I wasn't in his way, but I can understand how it is when someone's in your house and you're used to being in a 1-bedroom house. I can understand that. Just knowing someone else is there. You could have just kicked me out. And what pissed me off was my roommate / one of my closest friends vouched for you while you were staying in my apartment in Mississippi. I wanted to beat the fuck out of him. But you have to think strategic because I still needed his address for my check because checks weren't getting direct deposited. So I end up leaving. And to cap this story off, he loves Instagram. I saw his story maybe a week later. And a week later, when I looked at his story, and this is a few days and a week later, so it's a multiple stories around different amounts of time. He's posting his house, like his crib, his apartment. No parents ever stayed there. And to be honest with you all, he had girls over. And he was fucking off with some hoes. So, Vic, he's a bitch ass nigga, bruh. You a bitch ass nigga. And when I told my homie that, this is the part that really capped it off before I end this story. I told my homie, I said, your partner did this, this, and this. Woot, woot, woot. The whole story I just told you. He said, damn, man, that's crazy, man. I'm sorry that happened to you because he was doing some fuck shit once upon a time before I met you when we were back in college. And I really got upset then because I was like, yo, you vouched for this nigga when I asked you about him and said he was shiesty. And now somehow, some way, you said he did some fuck shit. And you knew it. I understand vouching for your friend, man, but I thought that whole situation from Honey to Vic to what my roommate did and to me just giving in to what I normally do. I should have just stayed homeless the whole time. But you live and you learn. This story isn't meant to be sad. The story is meant to learn from something. I'm calling this Homeless in Atlanta Part 1 because there's more to it. That's not even half of it. And I hope you enjoyed it. Drinks up. Season 1 is done. Season finale. I might release another season. Season 2, episode 1 in February, which is my birthday month. Or I might just wait. So I hope you take something with you with that. Low Tide, Mississippi, we out. You so dope. Better than a drink in my coat. More like the tree in my smoke. If you wanna rock this boat, then we can ride out. You so dope. I'ma get you into your zone. Then we can be alone. Go ahead and kill your phone so we can ride out. You so dope. What? You so dope. 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 You so
Y'all make sure y'all like, y'all comment, y'all subscribe, cause some funny, some fire stuff is on the way.